ठीक है.
Okay. Okay. So, hello guys. I think the time has come. We have shifted a bit from our usual Canva posts that used to get like 150, 56 likes to this audio format. Now, this is अभी तुमने नाम क्या रखा है आई डोंट नो बट जूम मीटिंग में बट ही इज अंशुमन अंशुमन
It is
दास.
Anshuman here only. It is not Google Meet. So it is Anshuman here.
नहीं तुमने तुमने लास्ट टाइम एक अजीब नाम रखा था एनीवेज. सो सो दिस इज अंशुमन दास फ्रॉम दिल्ली एंड आई एम. मैं कौन हूँ तो पता चल ही जाएगा क्योंकि जिस अकाउंट में पोस्ट होगा बता ही देंगे बट बता ही देंगे एनीवेज. सो वी आर बोथ इन अ सेंस हिस्ट्री नर्ड्स. आई एम गोपाल राउत फ्रॉम कटक. मैं कटक में बैठा हूँ उड़ीसा में एंड अंशुमन इज इन दिल्ली. So Anshuman, please go ahead and introduce why exactly are we doing this? Fed up of re- non-existent statistics about GDP in 17th century.
So the main point of doing all this is actually that conventionally there are a lot of things which a lot of those who proclaim themselves as that we are very much interested into history and endorse that very openly. I would say frivolously. For example, the in recent times आप सबने एक बहुत popular claim सुना होगा that there is this claim that in certain part of history, let's say in 1000 AD or in 1700 AD, the GDP of India was this US $1 billion. And some those who are very specific about the details, they also say कि as per purchasing power parity of 1990 US dollars and all. So the main agenda of this, what we can say, a discussion, not really a podcast, because podcast is, in my way, I would say it's just a synonym of mansplaining and nothing else. But anyways, so this is a
In
very
India at
popular.
least. In India at least.
Certainly, in India, it is synonymous to mansplaining, and this is one claim which a lot of people make very frivolously, that the GDP of India in this time period was this. See how the favorite the rule of our favorite king was the golden age of India and all. So this the main idea of this discussion was firstly to deconstruct this and go into other popular myths of history which we endorse very openly. And these popular myths are such that they are not very distortionist, but they are ahistorical. So there is a very
Hmm.
fine line between distortionist and ahistorical. And that's what the whole point of this discussion is to segregate what is distortionist from what is, let's say, ahistorical.
Hmm. So we'll now go to a bit of like let's imagine ये जो claim करते हैं लोग कि this is GDP of India in 17th century or 8th
Yes.
century or 5th century whatever. So we will now go into a bit of like you are a person from economics background and I'm currently studying that. Okay, let's not bring that much of economics to it, but इन द सेंस कि जैसे इकोनॉमिक्स में माइक्रो एंड मैक्रो होता है ना. लेट्स लुक अ
Yes.
बिट ऑफ लाइक एट द सेंटर लाइक मैक्रो पर्सपेक्टिव से उस एज को देखते हैं. लेट्स टॉक अबाउट द 17th century first because that's where all the news
Yes.
and meaty stuff is happening right now.
Yes. Yes.
So
Uh, okay. So, see, from a perspective of economics, now I don't want to put a lot of economics here, but macro is a part of economics which somehow interests a lot of people, because all of people are talking about GDP, tariff, inflation, everything. Now, you can't really understand economics without understanding how microeconomics works, very importantly. So
exactly.
if you, because micro is somehow, it tells how do people work. So people and households, they're the basic unit of economy. Now, if you don't consider, or if you don't study the basic units of an economy, which is a household, in context of Indian economy, when we say what is the basic unit of our economy, it's an household. It's a household. So when you don't study the household or the consumption patterns of a household, how can you even make a decision which talks about the very macro level situation of the economy? So that is the same way how we a lot of us make claims about the GDP. So this GDP story comes from Angus Madison. So Angus Madison is a British economist, and he makes this estimate. He himself calls this as estimate, by the way, that the GDP of India in 1700 AD was some 90,000 US billion dollars as per 1990 purchasing power parity, and the same claims are for 1000 AD, the same claims are for some 1500 AD as well. Now, the problem is that you are sitting in, for example, Angus Madison died in 2010, and his study was during the last years of 20th century, let's say 1990. So, Gopal, given you are not from an economics background, very essentially, you are someone who is doing law, right? So, given from your perspective, how can you imagine that? How are you going to estimate? If I give you the task of, let's say, estimate the GDP of India in 1700 AD, how would you do this?
फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल ये जो पूरा लेट्स ब्रेक इट डाउन अ लिटिल बिट, लेट्स
Yes.
नॉट गो टू एस्टिमेशन फर्स्ट. मैं क्या बात करना चाह रहा था थ्रू दैट पॉइंट वाज कि आई वांटेड टू सी दैट मैक्रो लेवल ऑफ ऑपरेशंस इन
Yes,
इंटायर इन इंडिया एट दैट पॉइंट ऑफ
exactly.
टाइम. सो व्हेन यू से एन एस्टिमेट, आपको उसके लिए स्टैटिस्टिकल इंफॉर्मेशन चाहिए.
Certainly.
And we have our own statistical tools right now in this modern world. The
Hmm.
only kind of people that are doing statistics in 17th century India are the royals as in like political power wise.
Hmm.
And you, to make a proper estimate of a country or let's say a particular area, country तो खैर बहुत ज्यादा हो गया,
Hmm.
आप अपने let's say your own estate का भी estimate करने के लिए you you need a lot of state, quote unquote, state capacity.
Hmm.
मैं quote unquote इसलिए बोल रहा हूँ because they are not really like 17th century India. You don't have pre-modern states with like proper
Yes.
state capacity to go into each household and what देखो कि
Yeah,
उनका
exactly.
monitor करो कि कितना consume कर रहे हैं, right?
Hmm.
So वो नहीं है. But let's say मतलब benefit of doubt देते हुए let's go into this entire discussion. How you estimate is कि basically what happens in data collection, primitive form of data collection, कि जो let's talk about the Mughals first because they are really the big guys at that point of time.
Hmm.
There is no centralized data collection per se. I mean, it is बहुत सारे scholars का मैंने argument देखा है कि post Mughal Empire, like post establishment of Mughal Empire, there is a lot of paperwork that is coming in the historical record writing.
Hmm.
But you have that in other parts of the world as well. The Qing Empire is doing similar stuff. The French are doing similar stuff. That does not necessarily mean कि आप अच्छा estimate दे रहे हो. You are only estimating कि आपका tax कितना आपको चाहिए. But the other things like एक जिस let's say एक Amil Guzari is a term that the Mughals use for tax, and there are like kisms of crops, grades of crops that they want to tax, and that is also the pattern that other empires like the Puris and other parts of the like the Malabar coast का खैर उनका थोड़ा अलग था of the Nayars, because they don't necessarily have that state capacity. It depends upon empire to empire. तो दे यूज दैट टर्म ऑफ अमील गुजारी. तो आप वो देख रहे हो कि आपको कितना टैक्स चाहिए और टोटल पैदावार देख रहे हो, बट यू आर नॉट नेसेसरीली मॉनिटरिंग लाइक ईच पर्सन कंजम्पशन हैबिट्स. एंड इट इज टुडे हमको लगता है कि 5 साल में हम लोग एस्टिमेट कर रहे हैं, तो एक कंटिन्यूअस प्रोसेस है. पर भाई साहब, जब आपके पास फर्टिलाइजेशन नहीं है, कोल्ड स्टोरेज नहीं है, एंड ऑल दीज मॉडर्न फैसिलिटीज, योर एग्रीकल्चरल प्रोड्यूस इज hell lot of dependent upon local conditions and even like time. कि आज इस साल बारिश हुई तो हुई, अगले साल नहीं हुई तो your land goes fallow for next 3 years 4 years, who knows. तो ये जितने एस्टिमेट्स देते हैं कि इतना परचेसिंग पावर पैरिटी के हिसाब से इकोनॉमी था या फिर ऐसा था, आई थिंक इट्स काइंड ऑफ टू lack of better words, it's a bit of BS. So anyways, so this is the problem with estimates.
No, see, what you have said seems from you can say ये सब चीजें हमें हम बोल सकते हैं from a historical perspective. But when you say, for example, it is 2025, how is GDP calculated in 2025 at the very first place? In the beginning, I had said कि households are the very micro units of an economy and the basic units of an economy. So GDP is not calculated in 2025 as if कि आप घर घर जाके ये बोल रहे हो कि आपका कितना प्रोडक्शन हुआ, अपना कितना इनकम हुआ and all. It is GDP itself is a very big estimate. And you will have to understand it. It is just like how each and every unit of an economy, which is buying unit or selling unit, what produce or what outcome is it giving? And that's why we say that whenever we are calculating GDP, we have many surveys which actually calculate the, you can say, micro level data like PLFS, Periodic Labor Force Survey, Household Consumption Expenditure Survey, Annual Survey of Industries, and NFHS last time हुआ था 2021-2022 के आसपास, National Family Health Survey. So these are some surveys which actually you can say complement your calculation of GDP at the very first place. Now, on the basis of all these complements and on the basis of very what you can say estimates of what income tax or what GST collection is of the economy, on the basis of this we calculate the GDP. So you will have to understand it that GDP is not such that हम एक दुकान में जा रहे, we are asking that एक साल में पिछले साल में आपने कितना प्रोड्यूस किया कितना सेल किया and हम उसको एक पेपर पे लिख लेंगे. No, it is a very big process and the government does not calculate it every year, by the way. कि government हर घर जाके पूछे कि what is your outcome and what is your produce and all. Government uses these surveys to complement the calculation of the GDP. So when we say that in 1700, how can we even talk about that? What was the GDP of the country? So Angus Madison makes use of, you can say, estimates of population data and productivity data. Basically, जो GDP है of a particular country based on its agricultural productivity, because we were a agricultural country, and
Everyone was
yes,
like industrialization, everyone was.
and on the basis of it he makes an estimate. Now uska estimate ka problem actually है, when I said how does the our government right now calculates GDP, it also complements unit level micro data from each and every household. Ki from example from PLFS it will ask you that what is your consumption of last year, what is your consumption of routine goods, what is your consumption of durable goods, what is your consumption of, what is your imputed consumption, means आपके घर में होम ग्रोन, for example home grown consumption कितना है. For example, a lot of people have these things like terrace gardening and all, so this all comes under imputed consumption and even that is calculated. So these all measures of these surveys actually complement our calculation of GDP. So now you will have to understand that you can't really calculate GDP without excluding, I will honestly use this word, excluding the micro part of it, which includes each and every household. And that's why, so one of the claims, Angus Madison ke continuation में, there is a claim of, there is a PhD thesis by Shirin Muswi. So Shirin Muswi had done a PhD thesis on the Irfan Habib from JNU, and usme she gives a lot of statistics about the revenue collection and tax collection and agricultural productivity from the Mughal Empire. And that is a very, I would say, exhaustive PhD in itself. But the thing is कि आपके पास records सब एक streamlined way में available नहीं है, isn't it?
Exactly.
So to calculate something as big as GDP, you need everything in a very streamlined way. Now, for example, if you are getting some document which tells you about the agricultural revenue from, let's say, Awadh. And on the other hand, you have some document, let's say, from agricultural revenue from Sindh. So आप उन दोनों को compare कर सकते हो, you can include them in your PhD. But you can make an estimate of the GDP of the whole country on the basis of that. Because you will also have to understand that the regional borders are also there. It is not as if 1700 India was in the region, in the geographical territory like we see now, isn't it? So
एक और चीज है, like you mentioned all the complementary surveys of the GDP. This
yes,
look like pushed me into another thought. Ki we see GDP, like you mentioned the family health survey and other stuff like that. Nobody in the 17th century is caring about the family health of a poor
certainly,
peasant.
certainly.
ठीक है ना?
So
they, they don't. So the way we approach production and the way they approach production is not the same. I mean, even like, let's say 60 years back, the way you approach production is not the same as how you approach
yes,
production right now.
certainly, if you see now, our can say outlook of how do we estimate production or how do we estimate development for that sake is very different from how it was, let's say, even 100 years ago. 100 years ago हम डेवलपमेंट का जब भी बात करते, for us development was income.
Hmm.
Now, let's say, come to 21st century, now there is Amartya Sen, there is Mehboob Haq. Now they are saying, nahi, development is also standards of living, development is also your life expectancy, your literacy rate, your even small details like whether your house has concrete flooring or not, even that is also considered a development. And तभी
Yeah.
वो सब मिला के ही there is this notion of multi-dimensional poverty. So you will have to understand that it may seem very degrading, but it is the truth. But कि 21st
Hmm.
century के norms आप 17th century या 16th century पे नहीं लगा सकते. That is the truth.
Exactly. So with that, we will stop the economics right now, and we will go into what we had planned for this session. So initially, we wanted to do a live on War Elephant, but that failed miserably. And instead of saying like "suck you" to a particular businessman, we just said, "Ki let's continue this endeavor in a long format." So you said ki you can't necessarily apply 21st norms to 16th century, 17th century, or pre-modern times. And this is another like one of the with this floating claim of 25% GDP of the world in 17th century. We have other claims of different groups, like various religious groups, various community groups. Ki we committed much less violence, or we were much less problematic as people in the
Hmm.
17th century, 16th century, 8th century, 9th century, 10th century, as compared to someone else, which is such
Yes.
a stupid claim. And you will explain why, and then I'll elaborate.
See, now when you are comparing violence across different period of time, again, this is a very famous line, which I would say, and I like this a lot. This was from one of the interviews of Konkona Sen. She was saying that apparently we are in the times which are the least violent in the history of mankind so far. And when we say that we are in a particular period of time which is least violent, that also means that all of those period in history we are talking about and romanticizing it very honestly,
Exactly.
were also filled with violence. For example, now this comes from a very, we can say, modernist approach of history, that we are supposed to highlight the beautiful parts of history, which are filled with art, which is filled with love, architecture, poetry, literature, so as to raise, let's say, our future generations in a way which feels proud, very proud of our
Hmm.
history. And from that very ideology stems this thinking of the golden age. So they think so the idea of golden age is that there was some period of time in particular this century, this part of India, this place where there was a king who was very good and there was no violence, everyone was living happily. And then we you can just superimpose all of our ideologies of 21st century on that particular period of time.
Yeah.
For example, a
So
very
it evolves. It evolves accordingly, right? If you want a golden
yeah,
example, so I will impose my own community's ruler on that golden age. I'll
certainly.
create a society around it.
I will say that for example, if my particular community or my particular ethnic group, there has been a particular point of time in history where there was a place in India or particular region in India where the ethnic group which I belong to, there was a particular king from that ethnic group as well. Certainly, there is this humanistic tendency that मैं उसको बोलूंगा कि that was my golden age. But then
Hmm.
you can't blind yourself and ignore everything else. Now, this is
Exactly.
something I have seen. Now, this might become a bit political, but even very good historians who are actually not from the right-leaning space and actually are we associate them more from the Marxist history perspective. Even historians like Romila Thapar have agreed that there was never a golden age in that sense. The word golden age we think is just interpretation in our head which is going on
Yeah.
from the modernist perspective. And that's why we see so many people when they talk about history, they are always talking about love story, literature, poetry, art, and all.
But उसमें भी like now, so I've come to this point of elaboration. उसमें भी like I'll give you one example.
Hmm.
Romanticization of what exactly? When we say कि यार इसको romanticize मत करो, इसके पीछे violence है.
Yes.
किस चीज के पीछे एग्जैक्टली वायलेंस नहीं है लाइक योर एंसेस्टर्स लेट्स से 11,000 years ago 9,000 years ago there's this particular I'm not saying कि ऐसा ही हुआ होगा I don't know anthropology sorry so we decide to castrate a few bulls we burn down a forest kill a
Hmm.
heck lot of animals
Hmm.
and we create the first farmlands and that is basis of our civilization तो क्या करें फिर मतलब रिजेक्ट कर दे हर चीज को आपके जो ये घर बन रहे हैं पत्थर टूट रहे हैं फ्रॉम क्वेरीज एंड यू नो एनिमल्स आर लूजिंग लैंड एंड सो फोर्थ तो वायलेंस इज ऑल परवेसिव आज के 100 साल बाद जो सोसाइटी होगी वो भी बोलेगी कि भाई 21st सेंचुरी बहुत वायलेंट था एज कम्पेयर
Hmm.
टू आर सेंचुरी ठीक है ना तो एंड दिस इज ऑल्सो लाइक मैं चूंकि मैं उड़ीसा में रहता हूँ एंड आई वॉज विजिटिंग आई थिंक आई वॉज what 10 12 when I first went to Konark and that experience was very good uh, at that point of time I did not know a lot of history especially Odia history in particular and I went to this place and there was this guide who used to show like अभी भी मिल जाएंगे तुमको कि वो पहिए में कैसे sundial दिखता है and so forth
Hmm.
and it was a very good experience no BT to the guide and I come back and I was like what 14 something and I was reading on my computer essay randomly so I find this very crazy inscription of this one guy called Narasimha Deva. And Narasimha Deva, if you know, is the we credit him to be the builder of
Builder.
Konark essentially. Yeah. So this guy's inscription says, I'll translate it into English. I know the Sanskrit version of it, but let's not hear my Sanskrit pronunciation at this point of time. So I'll translate it into English. Narasimha's army slaughtered so many Turks that the Ganga herself blackened from the kohal, rendered void from their wives' eyes by their tears. Okay.
Yes.
So this is exactly the kind of people that are behind that architectural wonder of Konark.
Certainly.
And
Now, okay, continue. I will say later.
yeah, and that's across everywhere. And people, I think, एक और account दे दूंगा जब we talk about oh Taj Mahal, oh this monument of love and so on and so forth. And this account is used by a certain class of historians to discredit the Taj Mahal. But anyway,
Hmm.
so Bernier gives us this account of this. this drought that happens in Khandesh or central India. I'm not sure whether it is, sorry, Malwa,
Hmm.
in central India, and during Shah Jahan's reign. And Bernier says ki what Shah Jahan exactly did was send a company of horsemen to trot around the land because people did not pay their rent, people did not pay their taxes, and now people are so like bereft of their grain, they are resorting to eat dogs and their own feces. And he wanted that tax because he wanted to build that Taj Mahal for his
Yes.
beloved dead wife.
Now, when you talk about, firstly, talking about Bernier for at the very first place and talking about Narasimha Deva's inscription, you will find one very fine line of similarity. Now, the line of similarity is somehow both are biased. Now,
Yeah.
technically, it can't happen that women are crying इसलिए उसका काजल बह गया इसलिए the whole river has become black. This is scientifically impossible. So that is the first thing, is that is an exaggeration in itself. Secondly,
लिटरेचर है भाई उसको तो.
yes,
Anyways.
literature and all sort of inscriptions, they have a degree of exaggeration. On the other hand, Bernier is someone who also makes the claim that this, which is very much famously used by a certain class of political historians, that Shah Jahan had an incestuous relationship with his daughter Jahanara, and Bernier is the one who makes this claim. Now, historians have interpreted very differently,
Okay,
but
I'll stop you there. Please quote what Bernier had exactly written.
I don't
Please.
really remember the very exact thing, but he says that why shouldn't a gardener enjoy the fruits of the tree which he himself has planted? It was
Lodge.
something like that. Yes. So the Bernier's claim, a lot of historians of medieval India, they have also said that foreign travelers' account are reliable, but somewhat. Because why somewhat reliable? Because at the end of the day, they are foreigners. For example, Megasthenes uh, writes about very exaggerating claims like flying insects. I don't remember if it was a flying beetle, a big flying beetle as big as an elephant or something. Yes, it was like that. So, on the other hand, Ibn Battuta writes about flying Sufis in Delhi. That there are Sufis in Delhi who are so spiritually elevated that they can fly in sky. And Bernier was also one among that category only of foreign travelers. So foreign travelers often have this, you can say, inherent nature that they exaggerate upon things, or they also record things which are false or have been told to them just because they were somehow the rumors. Because let's say from a very human perspective, अगर तुम एक foreigner हो and if you are in India, you don't know about the conditions of the country, or you don't know about what all is going on here. So obviously, whatever is told to you, you will have a tendency to believe it anyways. For example, in Delhi, एक पुराना दिल्ली में एक जगह है which was called Ballimara, which is still called Ballimara. You might have heard about it. And
Hmm.
uh, there was once a very famous story कि एक बहुत बड़े अंग्रेज आए, वो इस पे स्टोरी रिसर्च करने वाले थे. फिर उनको बोला गया कि ये बल्लीमारा नाम कहाँ से आया. उन्होंने पूछा, मतलब ये वहाँ के लोकल से, तो उनको लोकल्स को लगा कि वाइट है, उसको कुछ भी बोल दो मान लेगा. तो ही सेड अरे बहुत टाइम पहले व्हेन शाहजहानाबाद वाज फाउंडेड, यहाँ पे बहुत सारे चूहे हो गए थे, एंड उन चूहों को मारने के लिए बाहर से बिल्लियों को लाया गया. और जब बिल्लियां बहुत ज्यादा हो गई तो हंटर्स को बुलाया गया जो बिल्ली मार सके, और बिल्ली मार सके, और वो हंटर्स फिर वहां बल्ली मारान में रहने लग गए.
फिर
उनका नाम,
बंदी मार हो गया बिल्ली मार से.
हाँ, which is actually untrue because in the language of the old Delhi, Balli was actually नाव का वो चप्पू. तो
हाँ.
so Ballimara was basically a locality of those who were called nishat, मतलब जो बोटमैन थे उनका locality था.
मल्लाह बेसिकली जो मतलब जो
Yes,
मल्लाह सब कास्ट होते
yes,
होती है
yes.
वो.
And this was the way. This is like just an anecdote. This actually explains that why foreign traveler account are reliable, but still they should not be treated as, you can say, gospel at end of the day, because they do many exaggerations and they will also record many false things. But that is the, you can say, dilemma, because अगर आप foreign traveler account को refer करें, for example, if I take the example of Mughal India, if you have alternatives between choosing a foreign traveler account and a court chronicler, both are extremes. What will you choose?
कुछ नहीं. To be very honest, I'll choose nothing. I'll have a comparative analysis,
You
and
can.
it's मतलब comparative analysis भी flawed होगा because you don't necessarily get good look. 90% of the quote unquote facts about
Yes.
history are just like BS. Because if you are to imagine, I'll give you an example. मैं तुझे मतलब I told you this in evening and morning also. I was imagining, because I'm part time, I do art, so I was imagining this conversation between two people in medieval India. One was Ramanujacharya, and one was Anantavarman of the Chodaganga dynasty. Both medieval people, both meet, and we'll end on this note, and then it will be open for a few questions. So both people from the medieval period, if you know a bit of their like background, यू विल इमेजिन कि जितना कुछ भी लिखा जा सकता है उनके बारे में, इट वुड नेसेसरीली नेवर डिपिक्ट देयर ट्रू नेचर और ट्रू कैरेक्टर.
Hmm.
Right. Ramanujan, because of his, the hagiographic nature of his personality, ki religion se related hai, and so on and so forth. Anandavarman, because he's a royal. But apart from that as well, like imagine this guy Anantavarman, he rules basically South Odisha at that point of time when he visits Ramanujan, freshly taken over Puri, freshly taken over central northern Odisha, fighting wars in western Odisha, in Bengal, and so on and so forth. Ramanujan comes from core Tamil Nadu, and he has been educated by a lot of people around India. He has been to many places, to Karnataka, to Western India, to Kashmir, and so on and so forth. And imagine both of these guys speaking. Anantavarman would have probably at home, at Vogue, spoken in Telugu, Odia, or Tamil, because his mother is a Telugu, his father is a South Odia gentleman called Devendra Varman Rajaraja, and his mentor is a Tondai man from like North Tamil Nadu. And imagine both of these people having a conversation, whether on religion or whether on just a simple thing like Ramanujan could have asked the king that this tree in this town of Puri is very beautiful. Oh king, what do you think about it? You don't necessarily find that detail in accounts. Similar to every period of history, like except for the very detailed modern history, when we talk about, since we are going to talk about pre-modern period in this program a lot, in pre-modern history you really miss out on the thick, juicy, and interesting stuff. And you have these ubiquitous facts that people wanted to pass down. Now we are stupid enough to pass down कि मैंने आज क्या कॉफी पी वो भी मैं इंस्टा पे छोड़ दूंगा, but not necessarily people did that 100, 200, 300, 1000 years ago. So when we study history, I think the more important and interesting part are the assumptions rather than analyzing the facts. For me, it's more like कि एक fact से आपको एक background या पृष्ठभूमि मिल जाती है, and then I analyze the world around it, and मतलब not and imagine the world around it in a real sense, not in romanticized sense, not discrediting violence, not discrediting all the problematic stuff.
Also, in this sense, in this context, I would say कि ये चीज जो to put the juicy part of details into history and into chronicles is a very new thing. And it was something we see in Mughals very especially when they are writing autobiographies of themselves, just Jahangiri or this Tuzuke Jahangiri and Babar Nama. And further, even after that, we see a many court chronicles also, which are deliberately putting the juicy part of it in history, which actually creates, very much you can say confusion, and a juicy confusion which actually tells you कि हाँ एक conspiracy हुई होगी, कुछ ऐसा होगा कुछ वैसा होगा. So after that, that's why we see that in particular this period of time, we find a lot of researches in Mughal history because they actually recorded a lot of things which, when we see on a long term basis, they may or may not be that much important. For example, we see even Shah Jahan's this toilet cleaners are being mentioned in a list who were from a very low caste background, and they were converted here in Shah Jahanabad and in also in Sindh. So we even find information about that. So the information that who cleaned the toilets of the Shahjahanabad and how was the toilet of the Red Fort of the Qila Mubarak does not really play a very big role into, when historians are sitting and they are writing the overall history of the Mughal Empire. But these are the small details which you can say that creates some interesting part of it, but on the long term basis,
हाँ
historians find it
मतलब the
very
way
ambiguous in that sense.
हाँ तो मतलब the way it, I would not say कि मतलब I would not say कि it is not recorded मतलब juicy parts of other periods of history is not
Yes.
recorded. Let's say for example, let's look at the early Cholas, early medieval Cholas, Parantaka and so forth. Or even in like you find that in Kalinga as well, some of the donations, like donations of, or let's say even like second century BC Andhra Buddhists, you find donations of normal people, like they are donating rice, someone is donating ghee made out of sheep's milk to their gods and shrines. So you have that kind of information. More likely what has happened ki the thing that we are more interested in, let's say in early medieval period, let's put it matlab, let's put I'll put myself clear कि Mughals, or let's say the post 17th century, or these Marathi Bakhars of the Marathas, they have that advantage because they are like fairly comparatively late. But it's not like people back 1500 years ago or 1000 years ago are not doing it. It's maybe that they haven't survived, which makes it a little sad, but in that sense, a bit more interesting. I mean, try to imagine the world 900, 800 years ago. Craftsmen carrying stones, warriors practicing in akhadas, and most of our, and let me put it this way also. ये जो लोग मतलब
Okay,
तुम
wait,
दिल्ली में
Gopal.
रहते हो.
ये हमारा उसमें less than 1 minute रहता है for the Zoom window. So I will reshare the link again, and I'm stopping the recording now.
Okay, fine. So basically, what, and then yeah, like that was your that is kind of the surrealness of previous times. You don't necessarily have all the information, but that's okay. You don't need to. You need, it would have been better, but in the sense you don't have. और ये भी है, since you live in Delhi, I want to end this in this note because सबको थोड़ी औकात दिखानी है. Since you live
Don't
in
say
Delhi,
it
you
like
are
this.
exposed. नहीं यार, बच्चों की यार, we are so like okay, let me tell you this, viewers, both of us
Just
had
don't
like immense.
mention names, please. Don't mention
नहीं
names.
मैं मेंशन नेम्स नहीं मेंशन करूंगा, बट एनीवेज मैं मेंशन नेम नहीं करूंगा. लेट मी स्पीक. So both of us had very keen interest for history, but both of us left that keen interest to jump into other fields. I'm in law. This guy is trying to be a maths teacher or whatever else. Anyways, so since you are living in Delhi, you must have been exposed to this culture of the proud Jat, proud Brahman, proud this, proud that, and everybody, fabricating history. We were discussing that one particular battle which never happened in 18th century India. Okay, let's not go there. But understand this fact: that 90% of our ancestors, even your and even mine, probably were farming rice, millet, other grains in back-breaking sun, and all that glorious parts of history never really, like, your ancestors never lived that reality of palaces, must have been like 2 to 3%, but okay, we get it. And now आपकी औकात मेरी औकात same है. So वो है. So when we study history, let's be a little bit more closer in some sense, and let's be a little bit more distant in some sense.
Or in
और
that
चीजों
sense,
को
let's be a bit more charitable to the subaltern. Because
मैं ये भी नहीं कहूंगा मैं ये भी नहीं कहूंगा लुक मैं ये भी नहीं कहूंगा चैरिटेबल टू टू द सबाल्टर्न, क्योंकि ये वही है ना कि लोग बोलते हैं कि यार टेम्पल, दिस इज एग्जैक्टली लाइक टेम्पल डिस्ट्रक्शंस वेर नॉट रिलीजियस. दैट्स अ
yes.
टॉपिक फॉर डिफरेंट, दैट्स अ टॉपिक फॉर डिफरेंट थिंग. बट यार आपकी जो एरिस्टोक्रेसी है या फिर जो टॉप क्रेम डेला क्रेम लेयर है,
Hmm.
they depend upon the subaltern, right? They depend upon the subaltern. It's just the fact कि उनके पास वो साधन थे, वो resources थे to record their lives and events. But that does not mean कि you discredit, again, you discredit everyone else, which most of the Indian history does. मैं ये नहीं कहूंगा कि दिस इज लेट्स जस्ट टॉक अबाउट द सबाल्टर्न, क्योंकि आपके पास कोई सोर्स है नहीं. बट जब
Hmm.
व्हेन यू आर टॉकिंग अबाउट दीज ग्लोरियस डिनेस्टीज, द चोड़ास, चालुक्यास, मुगल्स, मौर्यास, गुप्तास, सो एंड सो फोर्थ, यू अक्नॉलेज कि वो जो ग्लोरी है वो आ कहां से रही है. दैट ग्लोरी कम्स फ्रॉम राइस ग्रेन्स, मिलेट ग्रेन्स, लेबर, वायलेंस, वॉर, रैपाइन एंड ऑल दैट स्टफ, जो हमको एक्नॉलेज नहीं करना है.
And also the part of history is that the part which we are talking about is he when we're talking about the subaltern, a lot of us actually ignore that how important were the subaltern for the lives of those whom we love to study a lot, or the love stories of
Exactly.
whom we love to study a lot. Because had the subalterns not existed, so their lives would not have been so glorious at the very first place.
इसीलिए इसीलिए अंशुमन ने अपने शैडो अकाउंट का नाम, खैर वहां पे नहीं जाऊंगा, वहां पे नहीं जाऊंगा. एनीवेज, सो वी एंड एट दिस नोट. आई डोंट
Yes.
थिंक कोई क्वेश्चन, आई डोंट थिंक कोई क्वेश्चन है किसी के पास. आई वी हैव जस्ट टू नो, लेट यू नो
We
गाइस,
just
वी
have
हैव अ
one
फ्यू ऑफ
guy.
आवर,
We
वी
just have
जस्ट हैव
one guy.
वन
That's
गाय
it.
फ्रॉम आवर होल फ्रेंड सर्कल. तो अगर रजत भाई आपको कुछ पूछना है तो पूछ लो.
लिटरेरी सोर्सेज जो है इम्पोर्टेंट है ना, पर उनमें से जो फैक्ट है वो भी इम्पोर्टेंट है, उसको फिल्टर आउट कैसे करेंगे?
Um,
इट डिपेंड्स, इट डिपेंड्स. मैं थोड़ा आंसर कर लूं फिर लाइक यू कैन गो
yes.
इनटू एलैबोरेट. It depends. Like, what kind of literary sources are you looking into? Because let's say, let's talk about like classical India. Like classical India, में Puranas are all considered to be a literary source, and the plays of let's say Bhanabhatta or Kalidasa are also considered to be literary source. But not, you don't derive, you don't have the exact methodology of approaching the Puranas the way you approach dramas of Kalidas, right? Because you're not, they are not for the same purpose. तो जब आप बोलते हो कि लिटरेरी सोर्सेस कैसे फिल्टर आउट करें, तो पहली बात तो ये है कि व्हाट आर एग्जैक्टली दोस लिटरेरी सोर्सेस, और वो क्या मेंशन कर रहे हैं एंड द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ दैट लिटरेचर. जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल है कलिंगा टू परणी, वन ऑफ माय फेवरेट लिटरेरी सोर्सेस फ्रॉम medieval India. This is about like the Cholas warring with Chodagangas, and you have to consider like few. Neelakanta Shastri has I think some article about it. I don't remember that particular name. Maybe it is not Neelakanta Shastri, someone else. And I read this in Anirudh Kanisetti's fabulous book of about Cholas. There is a, if you analyze that literary source, there is an entire political kind of propaganda even within the Chola court. Let's not just let's discredit Kalinga at this point of time, but within the Chola court there's a lot of political propaganda that is in that book. So approach to every book is also different. Anshuman, now you can elaborate on exactly how कैसे fact निकाला जाता है.
So I just wanted to ask, Rajat, what do you mean by literary sources? Does that also include Court Chronicle?
Yes.
Okay. सो देखो, कोर्ट क्रॉनिकल एक्चुअली क्या है ना, कोर्ट क्रॉनिकल बहुत चीजों को ना अपने मालिक के हिसाब से बहुत एग्जैजरेट करते हैं, विच इज ऑब्वियस. एंड there are certain many court chronicles. We have talked a lot about Mughal India because somehow I know a lot about Mughals, and a lot of people don't know this. At least those who will see this video, I know a lot of people don't know this, but I know a lot about Mughal India. So this there is a particular incident which a lot of people have talked about, is how Nurjahan's first husband was killed. And it was such that इस पे भी बहुत सारा वो है, because when in Suzuki Jahangir says that I met her when she was 34 or something, and she was a widow at that time, and she was some lady in waiting to Ruqayya Begum, who was his foster mother. And uh, not foster mother, but one of his, you can say, stepmothers. And so Jahangir writes all of that, and that's where Jahangir freezes his opinion that yes, this I met this widow at this particular Meena Bazar, and where she was a widow and she was a lady in waiting to Ruqayya Begum. So Jahangir freezes all of this here, and then he says, I have married her. On the other hand, there are so many sources which talk so many things. For example, I studied a lot about it. Firstly, there is a lot of people say that Jahangir got her first husband murdered, actually, Ali Kuli Khan. And this comes from Sujan Rai's Khulasatul Tawarik. And Sujan Rai writes कि उसका first husband का मृत्यु में जहांगीर का हाथ है. And there are actually so many sources, like there are two main sources which talk a lot about Nurja, which were um, one of them was Zakhiratul Khawanin, and the other was, there were two main court chronicles, I would say, in that sense, Farid Bhakkari and Shahnawaz Khan. So Farid Bhakkari comes in a period which is comparatively recent to the times of Noor Jahan. Means Farid Bhakkari, when he's writing, he writes it when Noor Jahan has been very freshly sent to exile in Lahore, and Shah Jahan has very recently become a king. And Shahnawaz Khan writes in 18th century, which is like over 50 years after Shah Jahan has ruled. And both of them are so different. See, Farid Bhakkari is like thoda sa charitable. He's saying कि Noor Jahan के time में India, the whole Mughal Empire was very rich and very prosperous, and she was a very intelligent woman. ये वो. Shahnawaz Khan is going totally against her. शाहनवाज खान इज सेइंग कि शी वाज देयर, उसने अपने पति को कंट्रोल किया, उसने अपने पति से सारा ये सब ले लिया, उसके खानदान के कुछ लोगों में अपना सब कुछ कंसोलिडेट कर दिया, विच वाज जुंटा सिस्टम. इरफान हबीब कॉल्स इट जुंटा सिस्टम. एंड शाहनवाज खान राइट्स दिस. No, historians have read it so differently, and historians say that how did this happen at the very first place? कि nearly 50 years और उससे थोड़े ज्यादा के पीरियड में the narrative of a particular person in history has become completely 180-degree opposite. How can this even happen? So one very good explanation to this was that Noor Jahan was against Shah Jahan's becoming king, because she wanted her this son-in-law, who was the husband of Ladli Begum. She wanted Shahryar Mirza to become the king, and she was against Shah Jahan becoming the king. Khurram, he was Khurram, known by Khurram at that time, and that's how all of it becomes. Ki she is against it, and शाहजहां के बाद से इसलिए ऐसा नैरेटिव बन जाता है कि शी इज बैड, उसने अपना हस्बैंड को कंट्रोल करके रखा, शी इज कंट्रोलिंग ऑल ऑफ द एम्पायर among her junta of her brother, her father, and a few people who are the Khurasanis. Khurasanis were the Persians. So a lot of times Jahangir is also given feedback from many of his close confidants, like this Kutubuddin Koka, who was one of his foster brothers, that Kutubuddin Koka is saying to Jahangir that you are very much biased towards the Khurasanis. कि आप खुरासानीस को बहुत वो फेवर करते हो कोर्ट में, एंड यू इग्नोर दोज हु आर द सेंट्रल एशियंस इन फ्रंट ऑफ देम, एंड दिस पर्टिकुलर नैरेटिव बिकम सो स्ट्रॉन्ग धीरे धीरे शाहनवाज खान के टाइम तक। बट शाहनवाज खान इज राइटिंग तो पूरा एम्पायर खुरासानीस के अंडर है, तो खुरासानी से जो कर रहे सब करता रहता वही है। So that is how literary evidence is so complex to
Even we see
understand.
that, even we see that lament in Aurangzeb's letters to
Yes,
Kambaksh. I think. He compares that entire race. Ki Indians are like this, Khurasanis are like this, the
yes,
Turkomans are like this.
because this has to be studied in a very contextual way. You can't see if Shahnawaz Khan is writing that a particular woman in history has controlled her husband or सारा empire उससे ले लिया ये किया वो किया. You can't treat this as a holy gospel. तुमको ये तो देखना पड़ेगा ना कि which is what is the context of what he's saying, and ये सब आया कहाँ से at the very first place. So that has to be studied, and historical records, literary evidences should not be read as they are. They should be interpreted very intelligently. That's the only thing I have to say.
हाँ मतलब उसमें भी like there are two things. मतलब इस पे end करते हैं फिर
Yeah.
कि like if I am reading let's say Yashas Tilakam, this is a Jain chronicle, and there is a description. Like I use very frequently, I use literature for like description and descriptive things to imagine an entire universe. So if it goes into that, Yashas Tilakam, for example, describes this Deccani army with their shields, with their hairstyles, with their costumes, armor, and so on and so forth. That I think that you can take certainly at face value. कि you know आप अच्छा एक बंदे ने उसको ऑब्जर्व किया होगा एंड देन ही डिस्क्राइब्स इट, बट व्हेन इट कम्स टू मेटा नैरेटिव्स या फिर ब्रॉडर जनरलाइजेशन ऑफ एनीथिंग, या फिर एक पर्सन के कैरेक्टर के बारे में है या एक पीरियड ऑफ हिस्ट्री के बारे में है, देन यू हैव टू गो नॉट ओनली द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ द लिटरेचर, जैसे मैंने बताया कि पुराण और ड्रामा में क्या अप्रोच का डिफरेंस होगा, बट ऑल्सो द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ द राइटर, कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ द टाइम, कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ कौन लिख रहा है, किसके लिए लिख रहा है. लाइक let's the court chronicles or poetries or royal poetries like Kalinga to Parani, they are not for general people, they are for specific readers, aristocrats who understand the political context of everything, जिसको हम मतलब संस्कृत में जिसको श्लेष बोलते हैं ना, तो they understand the श्लेष of that literary device that the king or the top boss is trying to convey a particular message. It's more like that corporate email that finds you well, but it doesn't really find you well.
Yes. So on this note, I think we should end this long discussion.
Yeah, so too much of Batkahi. But anyways, we couldn't help. Bear with us. If you like it, come like every Sunday we will post little. I think from next Sundays we should post a little bit shorter stuff, right?
Yes.
थोड़ा सा स्पेसिफिक जाएंगे और शॉर्ट में डिस्कशन एंड करेंगे. आई थिंक इसका पर्पस यही था कि what is our approach of doing this and how do we see things. So you don't expect a particular kind of, because I know a lot of people that know me from my previous kind of roles will watch this and so on and so forth, and other people, because it's a public thing, will watch this. So it's important for people to know the exact approach that we are doing when we are covering this. So anyways,